It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
Cool.
.06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Wednesday, so over the hump we go.
Today's show is sponsored by shrimp-flavored breath mints. Seals love them, and you will too.
So not really recommended for a first date. Just tossing that out there.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
I struggled this morning for you guys. I really am taking a look at which story do I want to open up with first. And so I'll give you the two, and then I'll tell you which one I decided to go with. First one, Forest Service won't blow up dead horses due to fire danger. You see, now that's an attention getter, right? No, you heard that. No, I'll go back. I'll read it again for you because you did hear that right. Forest Service will not blow up dead horses due to fire danger. We'll get into that. The other one, over in the UK, their highest court upholds a ruling that makes calling bald men bald is sexual harassment. Now, if you were in my position, you got to start a morning talk show that's going to last for 4 hours. Which one would you open with? Yeah, so I put the horse thing first, and then we'll get into the bald man thing. So, okay, first off, the horse. The Cowboy State Daily, when a horse dies in the Wyoming backcountry, sometimes the best way to keep it from attracting grizzly bears is using explosives to blow up the carcass into tiny pieces. I did not know. Did you know that? I had no clue. All right, well, this harkens back to, remember some time ago, and so you can watch this if you have never seen it. It's on YouTube. There was a whale that washed up on the beach, and I forget if it was a California beach or Oregon, one of those places. Big whale washes up on the beach. Huge whale. And it's starting to stink. They want to get rid of it. So what are they going to do? They decide to blow it up. So they pack it full of dynamite. And it's hysterical because what comes down are massive chunks of whale, rotting whale in massive chunks come falling down on everybody. People backed way off, but they used so much dynamite. It was raining chunks of rotting whale, huge chunks. So, okay, in the backcountry, their logic for this is if a horse dies and they leave the horse there, well, then a bear comes along and decides to claim it as its territory while it sits there and snacks on it for a matter of a few days. Who can blame the bear for that? Unfortunately, that becomes a hazard, not just to other creatures, but human beings as well, because there's this bear hanging out there. That has become a hazardous thing, and the bear doesn't want anyone getting near its horse. And so if they blow up the bear and if they blow up the horse and scatter it all over the place, then the bear doesn't have one place to sit. So there'll be a bear in the area snacking on stuff, but he doesn't have one place to claim his territory. That's the logic behind this. This is why when a horse dies in the backcountry, they blow it up. By the way, if anyone ever listening goes hiking with me, and for whatever reason, I have a heart attack, whatever, I die in the backcountry, I would appreciate it if you were to stuff me full of dynamite and blow me up. And if you're picturing, where do you want me to stuff the dynamite, Glenn? I don't care. That's your call. But I would like you, because I think that'd be about the coolest funeral ever. Just blow me the hell up and let me just splatter all over the place and let the animals have at me. So, okay. the story says, when conditions are better for it, the reasoning behind exploding carcasses is brutally simple. Then it explains the bare thing that I just did. And then there's even, by the way, there is a guide on this. Yeah, this is actually turned out by the Forest Service here. There is a guide on how to obliterate, a manual, how to obliterate a horse. Blowing carcasses, common practice. Forest Service created a guidebook for doing it properly. Isn't this great? See, I told you this is the best topic ever. The bald man story comes second. All right. Quote, explosives have successfully been used by qualified blasters. You can become a qualified horse blaster to partially or totally obliterate large animal carcasses, horse, mules, moose, your fat brother-in-law, whatever, according to the manual published back in 1995. An additional pound of explosives should be placed in 2 locations under each leg. Use water bags to hold the explosives close to the carcass. If it is impractical to place charges under the carcass, for example, when a carcass has been lying in water, a note of caution is given to remove the horseshoes beforehand because that's flying debris. And then it shows where exactly you pack the dynamite. This is an actual guide. Okay. Then you end up with bone chips all over the place. When explosives are not an option, the general proximity of the trail, they want you to take precautions. So basically, is there anything you can do to split the thing up or get it off the horse trail? I mean, if anything, get it off the horse trail. So anyone else who comes into the area, there's not some grizzly bear guarding its horse as a meal for the next few days, and that's what causes problems. So maybe just slide that horse off down the hill or something like that. Here's Chet and Yoder. We're men. We blow stuff up. Damn right. And by the way, Chet, would you go for a long backpacking trip way out into the wilderness without bringing dynamite? I mean, I've gone camping where I put on a backpack and hiked into the wilderness. I've had a gun with me, but I never thought to bring dynamite. Now, I'm not typically on horseback. So, you might think I might not worry about it because I'm not really on horseback. Now that I think about it, I should start bringing dynamite. Especially if I'm hiking with some fat guy, and the fat guy has a heart attack and dies. For the same reason blowing up the horse, I should probably blow up the fat guy, right? Yeah, I would think that the reasoning would hold there as well. So why the hell not? And why do you have to blow up somebody? Bodies used to explode all on their own until we started to embalm them. Why do I have to wait to blow up the fat guy if I'm hiking with him? Why can't I just do that in my own backyard? Probably a good idea. So anyway, great story by Cowboy State Daily. I had no idea that there was a manual for doing such a thing. Have you ever heard of anything like this? I haven't. All right, so the next story is the bald guy story. This is the highest court in the UK. This is the kind of stuff they think they need to be deciding.
This is how you know you've been married too long. So my husband makes me my coffee today, right? And as he's walking out the front door to go to work, he winks at me. I have literally never been so scared to drink anything in my entire life.
Well, that image is going to stick with you all day. He's not a politician, but his pants are on fire. Could someone grab an extinguisher? Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
6.2 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right, so if you're just joining me, the story I just got done with, great story, Cowboy State Daily. Apparently, if you're backpacking, let's say in some place like Wyoming, and one of your horses dies, because you're out there with horses, they encourage you, the Forest Service, to blow the horse up. You should have brought dynamite with you. I don't know why you didn't. You should have brought dynamite with you. And you blow the horse up. However, Forest Service doesn't want anyone doing it right now because they're afraid blowing up horses might start more fires. But they blow up the horse. The logic behind it is because it becomes a danger when a bear walks up to a dead horse and just decides, mine, and stage. Anybody gets anywhere near it is in serious danger. So blow the horse up, scatter it all. Remember to remove the horseshoes before you do that, by the way, because that's projectiles that can be really dangerous. They have a whole guide. There's actually a manual for this. I am not kidding. And so having said this, Chet and Yoder, so we are going fishing, right? Yeah, it's a great way to go fishing with dynamite. Red, who's in Casper, as an avid backpacker, I can assure you that on the third day, those extra pounds in the shape of explosives are getting heavy. Something is getting blown up, which means, Red, you and I need to go camp. At some point, we got to go camping because I'm totally with you on that. Tumbleweed is in KC. Do you know you can protect yourself from a grizzly attack with a .22 caliber pistol? Now, I know where he's going with this, but I'm going to finish reading it. When attacked, shoot your hiking partner in the leg and run. See, I knew he was going to, which is, by the way, he's not wrong. All right, so over to the UK. This is the UK's highest court. Remember way back when a judge in the UK ruled that calling men bald is sexual harassment? Yeah, I don't know how that's sexual harassment, but okay. Never fear, the UK is the land that keeps giving when it comes to creating absurd crimes, says the story. The defendants in that case appealed the sexual harassment charges all the way to the nation's highest court. And the court ruled that, well, this has to be quoted to believe. According to the judge's comments, she agreed that commenting on a man's lack of hair was equivalent to speaking about the size of a woman's breasts. Really? Speaking as a guy, I don't think it works that way, but okay. In concluding rightly that baldness is more prevalent in men, the tribunal was not imposing questions of disparative or adverse impact on this reasoning. Quote, rather, it was recognizing the fact that the characterized by reference to which Mr. King had chosen on Mr. Finn was more prevalent, yada, yada, blah, blah, said the judge. Okay, and so, okay, they consider it sexual harassment. So, okay, from now on, you bald men out there, whenever someone's looking at your bald head, hey, my eyes are down here. Use that one. Since you're comparing this to breasts, I don't believe in love at first shine. Rub my head for luck, but at least buy me dinner first. I mean, there's all sorts of, I don't know. How in the hell, this is what the highest court does in the UK. How in the hell is that considered sexual harassment? By the way, I want to know, when you see someone who's bald, how are you supposed to describe them? What words are you supposed to use? Well, bald is what he is. But you want me to say something else? If I were to describe, there's a guy, let's say his name is Jason. Jason's bald. I'm going to describe Jason to you. I can't say that he's bald. Phallically challenged. How about that? I could say phallically challenged. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do here anymore at this point. How about this? I'm just going to go ahead and call him the bald guy. How about that? And just leave it at that because it's okay. Now, some guys look good bald. In fact, if you think about it, some women even look good bald. And if you're wondering how I say that, go back to the first Star Trek movie. Remember that lady, the actress? She was bald. Through the movie, anyway, they made her look bald. She looked good. Some people are bald and look good bald. I know I would not look good bald, but I wouldn't wear a hairpiece either. I wouldn't rock that look. I just wouldn't. But some people just do. They look good that way. So now it's supposed to be sexual harassment to call someone bald. Okay. This is what some people waste their time with. Just so you know. There are important things to discuss in this world, like blowing up horses with dynamite is an important issue. But calling a guy bald as sexual harassment has to go all the way through the court system in the UK. By the way, the UK, these are the people who want, and this is a very vague law, but if you say something that's offensive to somebody else and they get all verklempt about it, they can actually have you arrested for that. Yes, they can. And a few years ago, it was a karaoke night somewhere in London. And there was a guy walking by this pub, and he hears somebody in the pub singing, "Everybody was kung fu fighting." And he considered this to be racist. And so he had the guy singing karaoke arrested for singing "Everybody's kung fu fighting." And they actually did arrest him. Jim and Casper, oldie but goodie, Chrome Dome. Well, there you go. Okay. If I can't call the guy bald because that's sexual harassment, then what would you rather? Chrome Dome we can go with. I can say phallically challenged. I'm not sure what to do here. So how about this? I'm going to go do what I normally do. I'm not going to change anything. And for those people who sit around worrying about, you can't say that, that's offensive. Sorry, not going to play along. But I enjoy watching you jump through mental gymnastics to try to figure it out as you overthink everything about life. All right. Now, I do have some real news stories. I know I say that. Oh, God, real. Yeah, there's a few real news stories I'll get into as the morning goes on. Not the garbage I started with, but I figured it's a Wednesday. We're halfway through you need a break. So I started with some garbage stories, and you're welcome for that. Now, local news is coming your way. Right after local news, update on the weather forecast, then you and I get back into it again. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97 WOODS. Wake up, Wyoming.
Start your day the right way. Wake up, Wyoming, with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join the conversation at 888-97-WOODS.
6:36 is the time. It's Wake Up, Wyoming. So DJ in Gillette brings up a pretty good point. You could get, apparently it's sexual harassment according to UK's highest court to call a bald guy bald, which I don't know what else to call him. And so I was saying follically challenged, and she was saying, you do realize you're saying phallus, not fall. I thought I was saying follically challenged. Am I saying the wrong word? Well, I'll take whichever one is funnier is what I'll take, okay, DJ? Just so you know. Even if it's the wrong one. If it's funnier, I'll go ahead and take that one. Serious story. Sorry, but let's go. Oh, by the way, Jim says if you're in Germany, you can get arrested for flipping someone off. See, in America, you don't get arrested for flipping someone off. That's just a butt kicking. That's just you better be, if you're going to flip someone off, you better be able to take them, or they're going to take you. Just so you know. All right, Casper, the city of, has asked the state for $2.7 million if Converse County solar farm is built, and here's why. According to Oil City News, Casper City Council agreed to ask the state for $2.7 million to offset expected costs to public infrastructure if a solar farm ends up getting built in Converse County. The council unanimously approved the memorandum of understanding with other county and municipal entities, establishing that, by consent regular meeting, October 15th, yesterday. The company has applied to the State Department of Environmental Quality to build a 499-megawatt, 4,700-acre solar farm. The whole panel's installation would be about 1.5 miles northeast of Glen Rock, in a memo to the council, according to their attorney. So the Industrial Council, part of the DEQ, typically allows counties and municipalities with a certain radius of major industrial projects to keep a greater percentage of the sales tax that would otherwise go to the state to cover possible hidden costs to public infrastructure and the influx of workers, things like that. So a previous county commissioner and said that those impacts need to be included. EMS services, police services, environmental impacts, unpaid deductibles, hospital visits, loss of lodging tax, revenue, when long-term construction workers stay more than 30 days and become effectively renters. So Casper, Mills, Evansville, Barnum, Rolling Hills, Glen Rock, and Douglas all expect to see impacts, and their attorneys all collaborated, which still must stand for review in order to do it. I kind of wonder if we're going to do this. I don't know, because I'm kind of new to this idea. Then why not just get the company without subsidies? By the way, you know how I am about subsidies. Let the company pay for these kind of impacts. Just a thought, rather than taxpayers have to pay for this. If the Dutchman Renewable Energy Project is approved by the state, the assumed 29-month construction period will begin 2026, about March. And the installation, they hope to have it operational by 2028. That's what they say. That's one of many solar projects to come into the area. Now, I'm not going to get my wish on this, as you know. Well, eventually I do, which is I don't like anything that comes into the area that's subsidized. And there's a lot of reason for that. And if there's going to be this kind of an impact, I would like the people who are causing the problem to pay for the problem that they caused. I would like to see that as well. If they're going to have some kind of a negative impact or just a bigger burden on the community, then they should have to pay for that. But these solar projects tend to get paid for by the taxpayers. Maybe not Wyoming taxpayers, but so what? Your federal government borrowing and printing money. You've heard me complain about this before. That's why these projects are being built. Without these subsidies, they're not coming in. You want to go ahead and put a solar farm up because you think that solar farm that you're putting up is going to earn you a lot of money as a company? You go right ahead and do that if that's what you want to do. Go ahead. Build yourself a solar farm if you think you can make profit off of it. But if the only reason that you're building the solar farm, not because you think you can make profit by doing business, but you're going to make a profit because the federal government is going to give you a bunch of money to build the solar farm, then that's where I'm opposed to it. And you know what happens in the long run? We've talked about this before. The subsidies run out. And when the subsidies run out, the solar farm is not going to be repaired after that. I mean, repairs for this thing are constant, of course. And if they're not making a profit, then they're not going to continue repairs, and eventually we have to clean up the whole solar farm mess. So there's other reasons why I oppose this. A list of reasons. Judy calls this program from time to time. She's fighting the idea of a solar farm that would be northwest of the Casper area, one up there as well. 642, Wake Up Wyoming.
Honestly, he's just happy to be here. Catch Glenn Woods on Wake Up Wyoming, weekdays at 6 on air, on Alexa, and on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to the icebox. Frank Gambino is waiting by.
You know, Glenn, you outdid yourself.
Did I?
You got M&Ms in the bowl. I'm going to tell you, you go on candystore.com.
Yeah, that's right.
And they will list the top 10 Halloween candies, I believe, by sales.
Yes, right.
And you know what's number one?
Yeah, M&Ms.
M&Ms.
Yes, right, yeah.
And I got some peanut
There's
butter ones here.
yeah.
I got some regular peanut ones.
Uh-huh.
So it goes down to the top 10, and
Yes,
you pick the right one.
There are also some with those little teeny candy bars in there, too. But also, the ones that have just the chocolate, it's not the thin amount. It's got, like, extra chocolate in there.
Oh.
I had one. And you got it. As you chew on it, you realize that's a bit thicker in the middle with the chocolate. Then it's good. So, okay. Yeah. I just got to remember to tell he doesn't want me doing this, folks, but I'm going to tell the rest of the staff there's candy there, too.
No.
Yeah, see?
Why are you telling everybody?
That's right. Well, see, I don't just have the bowl there for you. There's other kids
Nobody
in the
comes back here except for me, you,
Drew, Miss Mary.
And four people.
4 people. Let me see.
Maybe 5.
Ian.
Well,
Lisa
sometimes
comes up now and then.
There's sometimes. Colby, our news lady.
Pretty much everybody.
No.
Okay.
No. Don't tell them anything. I got to hide the bowl behind the coffin thing over here.
Okay. All right. So I do have a story that I have to get you in. I started the program, but as I was telling the story, I thought I have to get Frank on this. So apparently, let's say you were to go up into the Bighorn Mountains right about now, and there's a lot of people out there who are elk hunting, things like this. And as they go up there, they're on horseback, as you know.
Yeah.
Okay. What if your horse dies? One of your horses while you're out there on this horse train.
Well, and
you can't exactly bring it all the way back. So what the Forest Service suggests you do is pack it with dynamite and blow it up.
No.
They do. There's a manual for this.
Really? And the Bighorn is on fire.
Yes. Now they are asking people.
Explain that to the logic to me about that.
Yes, there are actually. Okay, here's the logic. Bears will find the carcass and go ahead and just claim the territory as theirs. And if anyone gets near, they attack.
Okay.
Because that's theirs. But if you spread it out, okay, bears just tend to meander around and eat the pieces like anybody else. They don't claim the territory. That's the logic. They don't want anyone blowing anything up right now, though, because it might start a fire. By the way, in the manual, before you go ahead and light the fuse, did you remove the horseshoes? Because those are going to become projectiles. I am not kidding, Frank. This is actually a thing.
They actually wrote that.
With a real manual to tell people. I use the same thing, by the way, if I'm ever hiking up in the Bighorns with a fat guy. Same exact thing. I just go ahead and bring whatever up there. And
it's like they're trying to beat a dead horse. All righty, in college football, the Wyoming Cowboys take their show on the road this week to meet San Jose State. It's been an utterly forgettable year at this point for the Pokes, with just a single win and 5 losses so far. UW 1-1 in Mountain West Conference play after a 27-24 loss to San Diego State over the weekend in Laramie. Evan Svoboda will still be their quarterback, and he's been a rough year so far. Accuracy and decision-making have been issues, and you're only going to go as far as your quarterback will take you. Plus, an offensive line decimated by injuries is not helping the situation, and receivers need to catch passes, but Svoboda's really struggled. And it appears that they're going to stick with him because maybe the coaching staff feels that the backup quarterback and redshirt freshman Caden Anderson is not ready for prime time. He enjoyed a spectacular season his senior year in high school in South Lake, Texas, throwing and running the football. And if Saturday's game gets out of hand, maybe this guy needs more snaps. UW 11-point underdogs in the game. That's a 2 p.m. start from San Jose on Saturday. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. Also in college athletics, the Mountain West Conference will make Hawaii a full-time member in all sports. Previously, they were a football-only member. And when the Mountain West teams when 4 Mountain West teams announced they're leaving for the Pac-12, the league needed new members. They've already added UTEP, and so now they got Hawaii. And for those 2 schools, they've come full circle. They were left behind when members of the WAC decided to form the Mountain West. Now they're in the Mountain West. Hawaii, in this agreement with the Mountain West Conference, will not have to subsidize their opponents' travel expenses. And those charter flights aren't cheap. So the Rainbows will start playing the Mountain West in 2026. Junior college volleyball, Casper College lost to Western Nebraska at the Erickson Gym last night in 3 straight, 25-15, 25-17, 25-13. It has been a brutal year for the defending Region 9 champions at 6-20. They'll host Central Wyoming College on Friday. The LCCC volleyball team from Cheyenne lost to Eastern Wyoming last night in 4 sets, 19-25, 25-23, 25-16, and 25-21. Golden Eagles are 9-16. They'll be at Gillette College on Friday. In the baseball playoffs, New York Yankees have a 2-0 lead in the American League Championship Series with a 6-3 win over Cleveland last night. Tonight is Game 3 of the National League Championship Series as the New York Mets will host the Los Angeles Dodgers, and that series is even at 1 game apiece. And that's it in sports.
Okay, so let me see. You like the M&Ms in any particular? Because although the peanut M&Ms are good, I prefer the ones that just have the chocolate in them.
I'll take them all.
Okay.
You know, I'll even eat the ones for Christmas.
Okay.
Where they're only red and green.
Right. Now, what about...
And I'm not like Van Halen, you know,
right,
they said,
yeah.
the little rider thing, like we can only have green and red M&Ms and no other colors.
Ones, yeah.
I'll take all colors.
Take all of that.
All of them.
There is other candy in there, but I guess
you're
not interested until you get through the M&Ms. Okay, my note to the rest of the staff is just don't eat the M&Ms. Those belong to Frank.
You know what? That's the first thing they're going to take.
That's exactly right. All right. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we have to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. I have a bowl of candy with some Halloween decorations out in front of my studio. That's what he's talking about. He wants them all to himself. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Much cool.
Six the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's Wednesday, and over the hump we go.
Today's show is sponsored by shrimp-flavored breath mints. Seals love them, and you will too.
But never on a first date. Or maybe when you want to break up with her, either way.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave. 888-97 Woods the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Got to do a little bit of work here on the fire. So first off, the big one, of course, there's still the one over in Teton Pass. That's a pretty big sucker, too. They're still trying to get a handle on. And then there's the Elk Pack Trail fires, which have combined. That's about 100,000 acres right now, and wow, we're hoping for some snow on this one. Well, and I'll talk to Don Day about it, 7:45. Weather really changes up over the next few days. Today gets a little windier. That's not going to be good for the fires out there. Well, good for the fires, not good for the firefighters. It'll go ahead, of course, fan the flames. But then here comes the cold weather and some rain, then some snow. We get a couple of days of that. And most of it, according to Don Day, most of the snow is going to fall right where we want it to over these fires. So if it's not enough to put them out, then it'll be enough to bring it down so the firefighters can finish the job. By the way, during this, there's going to be a 1-2 punch for Interstate 80. Now, of course there is. Enough to close down Interstate 80? I don't know. I'll talk to Don Day about it at 7:45, but there will be some impact on that highway. So this will be like Thursday, Friday when that system moves through. And then for those people in southern Wyoming, possibly a little bit of a repeat, a second punch on the way in there. Even then, snow will get a chance to hit everybody at some point over between the next 2 days and into next week as well. We begin with a repeat, especially for southeastern Wyoming. So the prairie areas certainly could use that. And then something else might be coming up behind that. Again, 7:45, I'll be talking to Don Day about it. Now, in the meantime, huge effort underway. There's about a 7-mile-long line that folks out there have been working on to try to make a huge fire break in that area. I mean, a huge fire break. So they've been at this for a while. So when the fire gets blown down, and it probably will get blown down into areas below the below the Bighorns, it'll hit this fire break area and hopefully bring it to a stop. We'll see what happens in the next day here. This is when the winds pick up and give them a hard time if that fire break works. But then hopefully all the snows come dumping down on that and help to, if not put out the fire, at least bring it down to something that's definitely manageable. Off to the phones I go. 888-97 Woods the phone number. That's 888-97 WOODS off in Mills, Wyoming. Hey, Jude.
Last night at the Board of County Commissioners, and I kind of kicked the door open on this solar farm about some of the issues that's going to follow it, because I just simply told them, I said, look, when I bought you guys over, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, over things like my property rights and that, and I'm a property rights advocate, but when it affects my neighbors, it's a different story, right? And they all say that. Anyway, I told them, I said, I had to drain all the oil and gas and everything out of my cars out there because you guys were worried about the watershed, which is only 40 feet deep. And you're thinking about letting this go in. They use antifreeze to defrost the solar panels. Where are they going to get the water from? They're going to steal it from the aquifer? Our well is going to go dry? And I just gave them, kind of a top test. And I said, well, I'm going to have, Rose and I are putting together a proposal, and it's 20 slides. I think we can spend about a minute on each slide and move through it. So the top time I need 15, maybe 20 minutes. I don't need to be in front of the Board of County Commissioners. I want to be in front of the Planning and Zoning, because that's where this begins. That's where this can be killed. Okay. And if you're looking at old city news today, there's article after article. Everybody wants their fingers in that money pot, but they're not thinking about what's going to be left over when those solar panels go decommissioned our landfill can handle it, especially if they're proposing for even here. Look at that dinosaur we proposed out in Vernon. Well, it's still being built because there's opposition, and it's big opposition. You know, officials need to quit looking at the dollar sign and start looking at what this is going to cost us in electricity, because none of that is for us. That's all for other states. And anyway, so they seem pretty receptive. And Peter called me yesterday, Nick Layson, and he said that he would talk to planning and zoning about that 3-minute rule, and that I do deserve time in front of them to present what we've got.
Okay, that's good.
Michael, tell Micah real quick, they won't let us give our minutes to someone else. Okay? They stopped that up here a long time ago. I don't know why, but it was back when Chadwick was still county commissioner, and he was kind of a bit of a pip to begin with. But anyway, that's what I wanted to tell you this morning, is we're going to have a big fight on our hands. Wyoming. They see us as the perfect battery for the rest of the country. Yeah. And all that batteries, and you can't put them out with water. They got to be put out with that foam. The foam is poisonous. It's toxic to fire. There's all kinds of problems with this. Why are we, basically selling our for a few bucks in their coffers?
Mm-hmm. All right. I got a note here that somebody else sent me on the same project. I'll go ahead and read that for her. Thanks, Judy. I appreciate it. She's out there fighting because they're putting a solar farm near where she lives, which is around the Toronto County area, which is about northwest of where the airport is, the Toronto County Airport. And so that's what she's fighting right now. She doesn't want it out there. So this is from Sparky. He's also in Casper. He writes, just a note for you from someone with experience with wind and solar installations. There's quite a bit of maintenance on wind with a very high failure rate. Solar has very little maintenance and is extremely low failure rate. One solar I did in 2009 has not been touched since, works great. Same site, small wind turbine, after 3 weeks breakdown. Hasn't worked for 6 years now. So, okay. Thanks, Sparky. That's someone who's actually been a little bit in the business with installing some of these things. So my main problem, first off, you've heard me talk about the subsidies with this. A fake economy doesn't work. You cannot create an artificial economy. It never works. And these things are being pushed by your government. They're heavily subsidized. So I have a problem with that. If wind and solar were a better way to go, the marketplace would naturally pick it up, and that's what we'd all be doing right now. But if there's a problem with it and your government wants us to do it anyway, even though there's all sorts of problems with this, then we're going to wind up with a lot of problems in the future, especially when the money runs out. And the money actually ran out a long time ago. They're now borrowing and printing money in order to do this. So we actually ran out of money to do this a long time ago.
What's your biggest ick in a guy? Probably when they drive like a Tesla or any type of electric car. Why? I don't know. I'm not really into feminine guys. They need to be masculine. And it's feminine to drive a Tesla? It's not very manly when your car doesn't make any noise.
Polish off that tin hat. You'll need it for this one. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Available on demand on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
7:20 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Just plays right into what Judy was just talking about a moment ago. But not with wind and solar. Everybody, my name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Hang on to the phone calls for a minute. This is interesting. I look over at the ridiculously large television that they put in the studio with me, and we were just talking about wind and solar energy projects that are coming to Wyoming. And there's, I guess, the CEO of Amazon, and he's giving a talk. There's an audience there, lots of press, lots of dignitaries. And by dignitaries, I guess I should say bureaucrats, really, not dignitaries, bureaucrats in our own government. Amazon is one of those companies, Google's another one, that want to get into artificial intelligence. But in order to do that, they're going to need lots of energy. Now, in some cases, they're thinking, we'll build more wind and solar farms. I think the reality of that is starting to hit these guys, because they're realizing building more wind and solar causes a lot of problems, and it's intermittent at best. So they need something reliable. But, of course, these people buy into the whole cult of climate change thing, so they don't want to fire up coal plants if they can help it. Here's the headline. Amazon signs agreement for innovative nuclear energy projects. Now, of course, I'm looking at the Amazon website, and the first thing they have to do is talk about climate change. New small modular reactors agreements are part of Amazon's plan to transition to carbon-free energy. Well, I would prefer that they pump more CO2 in the atmosphere. We've talked about that as to why. That's good for the planet. But all right, as we continue our path toward net zero carbon, we recently announced as Amazon that we matched all of our electricity consumed by global operations with 100% renewable energy ahead of our 2030 goal. Stop right there. Amazon is lying. They did not. They absolutely did not. But okay. As the energy needs of our businesses and customers continue to grow, we're consulting and continuing to invest in renewables while also finding additional sources of carbon-free energy. And that's also a lie, because even wind and solar is not carbon-free when you get into see how they produce it. But all right, reading on. That can both help power our operations and build a new source of energy to the grid. Nuclear power is part of that mix. It can be brought online at scale and has decades-long record of providing reliable sources of safe, again, carbon-free energy. They keep stressing that. And there's no way they're going to go nuclear energy without... You know the amount of cement that they're going to need, concrete they're going to need to build these facilities? But they're going to be carbon-free, by the way. I guess what they mean by that is they're not pumping CO2 into the air, but to create all of this, they have to. And again, CO2 is not a pollutant. So Amazon says, today we're announcing that we've signed 3 new agreements to support our development of nuclear energy projects, including enabling construction of several new small modular reactors. They are an advanced kind of nuclear reactor with smaller physical footprint, allowing them to be built closer to the grid. Now, we've talked about this before. There's a company up in Campbell County that has been talking about building micro-reactors. So imagine if you live in, we'll say, a town the size of Gillette, and having one small reactor that powers the whole town instead of a really big one. And you'd be surprised how small they can build these things. That would power quite a bit, quite a lot. So this is what they're talking about here. They say, here's a quote, nuclear is a safe source of carbon-free, there we go with the carbon-free, energy that can help power operations and meet the growth and demands of customers and so on and so on. So this is what the big announcement is. And what gets me, and it goes on for quite a bit, this whole article that was written by Amazon. And I don't mind the idea that if they want to build a bunch of, they want to get into artificial intelligence. Amazon does, Google does. And in order to do artificial intelligence and to not just invest in that, but pursue it wherever it leads us, they're going to need a lot of energy, and they understand this. So their idea is, well, if we build a big facility, which is basically a computer hub to create this artificial intelligence, we're going to need power, and a small nuclear reactor can provide the power right there on site. Okay, that's actually not a bad idea. And it's certainly, what is the bad idea is wind and solar, I think they understand, is definitely not going to meet that need. Now, again, what gets me when I read what Amazon has written at an article is not only do they continue to push the carbon-free nonsense, but the idea that we've reached all of our renewable goals ahead of 2030, which is a huge lie. They have not. But they continue to push this idea. So, all right, if this is what Amazon wants to do, they got some big hurdles to jump here, where I understand nuclear facilities, the way we used to do it, we had a lot of waste left over. The way we do it today, we can continue to recycle down the spent nuclear fuel rods to the point that eventually, when we can't use it anymore, we've used so much of the radioactive material in there, there's really not a whole lot left. And so getting rid of it is not like it was back in the 70s and early 80s. For example, So we've gotten much better at it. That's true. But even though they keep pushing this idea of carbon-free, again, CO2 is not a pollutant. It would be better to have more of it in the atmosphere. But they still have to answer the question of, so that nuclear waste, what are you going to do with it? It is better. We're in a better position with nuclear waste than we were a long time ago. But what are you going to do with all of that waste, Amazon? And you don't consider that to be some form of pollution? Okay. Because, I mean, it bothers me that you keep talking about carbon-free as if CO2 is a problem. But at the same time, you're not answering the question about what you're going to do with the nuclear waste. Okay, even though we're in a better position to deal with that than before. I'd like them to answer those. There's a lot of questions I have. So right now, here's Amazon on television having a big meeting about this, and they're so proud of what they're going to do. Let's see, Cap in Casper says, no, the $3.5 million not in the budget. I got to go see exactly what you're talking about. Are you talking about that for the wind and solar projects? Chet and Yoder has a serious question. Who and where... okay. That's on a different topic. I'll get back to that topic a little bit later, Chet, because it's way off what we're talking about right now. But all right, a lot of big plans, and I still want to know if Amazon and Google are pursuing this, which I don't mind at all, that they're pursuing the latest technology out there. A big concern of mine is that it's their money that's doing it. And again, I don't want to see anything else subsidized. We've gone down the road of subsidies for all sorts of big mega projects that should have never been subsidized. If they want to pursue AI technology and they want to create their own power to do it through microreactors, that sounds great, but you are using your own money, right? My first question on that. And the second question is, what are you doing with all the waste? Coming up on some local news that we have to take care of. We're going to roll into weather forecast after that. By the way, 7:45 is when Don Day comes on and talks about a big change in our weather forecast, which might help our fire situation. Rick and Cheyenne, they also need to answer the question, Glenn, what are you going to do to keep those reactors cool? That's true. Okay. I mean, yeah, forget your carbon footprint. What are you going to do to keep the reactors cool? That can take a lot of water, depending on what type of reactor you have.
Cold.
If it matters in Wyoming, it matters to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Call Glenn at 888-97-WOODS and make your voice heard. AM 1030, K2 Radio.
7:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. So, okay, a couple of comments I'm getting here. If you're just joining me, Amazon right now is announcing that as they pursue artificial intelligence, they're going to need a lot of energy. What they're not admitting is that wind and solar isn't working for them, and it isn't, because that was their original idea. Then they lie and say, we met all of our carbon emission goals before 2030, which is simply flat out a lie. But in order to pursue it, they're going to need a lot of energy, so they want to build micro-nuclear reactors alongside of their big, I guess, server farms, I guess is what we'll call them for AI. And I think that's not a bad idea because it's being self-powered right there on site, and that's a great idea. But they keep talking about going carbon-free, carbon-free, carbon-free. And again, that's not a pollutant. That's good in the atmosphere. But okay, they want to go carbon-free. Well, they're still going to have a problem with nuclear waste, even though we're better at handling nuclear waste today than ever before because the way we continue to recycle and reuse nuclear material until it's not as radioactive as it used to be, but still that's going to be a problem for them. And they don't want to address that. So, WL in Crowheart, when Bezos, that'd be Jeff Bezos, Amazon, is saying carbon-free, he's saying, give me some free money. And the Department of Energy is giving away $84 billion in carbon-free green energy. It's true. Dan and Cheyenne, I'm so glad my brain only needs breakfast and dinner to run well. And I can do many things that artificial intelligence cannot do. How about that for energy efficiency? All right. Well, but they're determined to build this, and okay, so here we go. My main concern is do it on your own money. Amazon, Google, Go for it if you want to pursue this on your own money, which is one of the reasons I have a problem, as I've talked about before, electric vehicles. Here's one for you. Latest on electric vehicles. The true range of electric vehicles is 50% lower than advertised. The buyers of electric vehicles need more information, the story says. Current range data rarely mentions speed, but it is assumed about 55 miles per hour average. Tesla CEO Elon Musk admitted this to at a Geneva Car Show press conference in 2016. It's true at that speed. Electric vehicles are very efficient at 55 miles an hour. And you know the old song, I can't drive 55. It's only when high speeds are held for long distances that the problem emerges. And then it gets into the numbers on it. So this goes into the same thing we were talking about this time. I think it was last year, I think. Some people were running tests. They took some pickup truck. One would be a Ford pickup truck, and then the Ford Lightning, which is the electric version of the same truck. And they put them out in the highway. They went right through Colorado doing this. And each of them had to haul a little camper trailer of the same exact make, model, weight inside all of it. And they found that as they tried to pull this thing cross-country, the electric vehicle lost charge quickly because the load was put on it. It was now having to really work. That doesn't mean the gas-powered vehicle wasn't working harder, but the gas-powered vehicle could certainly handle it much better than an electric vehicle. So it turns out, when they say to you, the range of your electric vehicle is this, well, that would be the same. I'm thinking out loud here. Help me out. When you buy an automobile and they say to you, and I'll pick a number, this gas-powered automobile gets 30 miles to the gallon. Highway. Well, they're assuming certain road conditions, right? Okay, so it's a nice day. You're not driving into the wind. I assume that means you're driving on a highway that's relatively flat. And you're going a certain speed limit. Now you're getting 30 miles to the gallon. But the moment you get that vehicle into an area where there's lots of hills, you're driving into the wind, you have a certain, maybe a load in your car, it's a little heavier than before, the speed limit is higher. Now you're not getting 30 miles to the gallon before. Okay, so let's take a look at electric vehicles here. So when they tell you an electric vehicle has a certain range, okay, until the range falls off a cliff at high speed, says the story. For example, an electric car, the extra energy required for getting 60 miles an hour or 75 miles an hour is astonishing. The moment you go up high, you lose a lot of energy. Like with a gas-powered vehicle, but worse. And so the range and mileage on this, again, both electric and gas-powered or diesel-powered vehicles, of course, you lose efficiency the faster you try to go. But it really falls off in electric vehicles, is what they're saying. Milo and Ford Danger, 3 words. Pebble bed reactor. Check it out. I will. Okay. John and Gillette. Before to start AI, before we have an abundance of energy, easier to turn it off. Easier. Oh, okay. That's a good thought. Make sure, basically what John is saying, if we're going to go artificial intelligence, make sure we're able to turn off the energy and shut it off whenever needed. Not a bad idea.
Hello. I finished my free trial of adulting. I'm no longer interested. I'd like to cancel my subscription. Is there a manager that I can talk to?
Admit it, you were hoping somebody would say that. News and weather together at the top and bottom of every hour. This is Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on AM 1030 K2 Radio.
7:46 the time, Wake Up Wyoming. So here's the deal, folks. Blow your lawn sprinklers out now. You have this morning to do it, then you're screwed. Here's Weatherman Don Day. Hi, Don.
Well, you might get away. You'll probably get away with it if you wait till tomorrow.
Oh, really? Okay.
But I think a lot of people probably have. But there are slackers out there.
There are, yeah. I have someone do it for me. So would that make me a slagger? Because
Yep.
okay.
Totally. Yeah,
okay.
you're missing the
thrill.
rich experience
That's
of doing it yourself.
I do like watching sprinklers blow out. That's fun. It's just, it's a good time. Okay, so looking at this, so we do have, again, a little bit more mild temperatures today. That wind picks up, unfortunately, for fire areas, but it brings good news.
Yeah, it's bad before the good. You're always going to get wind ahead of a storm in front like this, and that is going to be critical today into tomorrow in the fire areas, although I think it's today to get through for the elk fire, the pack trail fire. Those areas are going to be in wet conditions tomorrow. But today it's going to be warm and windy for one more day before the changes finally come on in.
Okay, and when those changes come in, I keep hoping to hear from you, although we don't know until it really happens. It's good news that a lot of the areas that are currently burning are going to get some snow. How much?
Well, I think it's going to vary. Okay, but I think that the potential for 6 or more inches is very good for both fires. You're going to have localized amounts that are different based on terrain. It's going to be enough for the firefighters to get the upper hand. Is it going to be enough to put them out completely? I don't think so. I mean, when these fires are this big and this hot, it takes a while. This reminds me a lot of 2020 when the Mullen fire in the Snowy Range went deep into October. And it was about the same time in 2020 for an October storm to come on in. And basically what that did is it stopped it and allowed firefighters to get the upper hand. And the rest of the season, it's the beginning of the end of the fire season. But today is going to be critical.
Yeah. And now, real quick, I-80 will be impacted a little bit during this next one and a little bit of what happens later on.
Yeah, so I would watch the higher elevations of Interstate 80 between Rollins and Wamsutter, maybe the Elk Mountain area, and then the Interstate 80 stretch from west of Green River to Evanston. Those are two areas where it could be cold enough for some wet, slushy, colder conditions that could cause some slick travel. All of Wyoming's mountain passes. If you're going to be going somewhere, especially tomorrow night and Friday, the high country mountain passes will all have snow on them.
All right. Thank you, Don. We'll do it again tomorrow. Don Day with day weather. So, I had to squeeze the I-80 thing in there. I think that's really important. But so some impact, but you've seen it worse. All right, off we go to the icebox. Frank Gambino is waiting by. So, Frank, you're wearing a very special jersey.
A Chicago Blackhawks jersey, yes.
Okay.
For hockey.
Right, hockey. So are they playing, I guess, now?
And the hockey's on.
Yeah, okay.
So the Blackhawks lost yesterday, but they're not very good. But they maybe get better.
Yeah.
They have a couple of decent players, But I've been a fan a long time. It just pains me when these teams that you like just are so bad.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like bad, not just bad, but bad.
Really bad. Okay, that's when you find out who the true fans are.
Well, yeah, and then the teams are taking advantage of loyal fans who are paying big money to go see them, and they play like that.
Yeah, okay. Now, you are taking off. You're hitting the road after this. First off, where are you going?
I'm going to Denver, where I'm going to see Korn.
Okay.
Korn with a K.
Okay.
Concert with my kid.
Okay. I know some people who are heading down to see that as well.
Excellent.
Okay. So I assume since you're going to be hitting the road here, then you're about to raid the Candy Bowl on the way out.
Well, I saw that little email you put out.
Yes.
So it's almost like you've alerted people that there's going to be someone who's going to hoard this stuff.
Yes, which is true.
Like the toilet paper thing.
That's true. Yeah.
So I saw that as well, if that's the case, I grabbed 2. Now I got 4.
Okay, there you go. So
I'm the toilet paper guy of the M&Ms.
Yeah. So Frank,
let's buy the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm taking the whole bowl with me to Denver.
If a natural disaster strikes, folks, Frank is not going to go down the toilet paper aisle.
No,
he's going to go down the M&M aisle.
Right.
And pack up on that.
Yeah. I mean, just
yes.
I don't want to be like a true hoarder, but now your supplies are the supply chain with candy. Who knows what it is?
Well, okay. Now, when are you coming back after this?
I'll be back Thursday late afternoon.
Late afternoon. So you won't be really back in the building until Friday.
Right.
Okay. All right, just making sure. Trying to strategize this while you're away.
All right, in college football, the Wyoming Cowboys take their show on the road this week to meet San Jose State. It's been utterly forgettable so far for this season for the Pokes, with just a single win and 5 losses so far. And UW 1-1 in Mountain West play after a 27-24 loss to San Diego State over the weekend. Evan Swoboda will remain at the quarterback spot, and he's been rotten so far this year. Accuracy and decision-making have been issues. You can only go as far as your quarterback is going to take you. An offensive line decimated by injuries is not helping the situation at all, and receivers need to catch passes. The coaching staff is sticking with Swoboda, and it appears that the staff feels that backup quarterback and redshirt freshman Caden Anderson is just not ready for prime time. Now, this is a guy who enjoyed a spectacular high school senior season in South Lake, Texas, throwing and running the football, so he's got ability. And Saturday's game, if it gets out of hand, maybe Anderson needs to get more snaps. UW is an 11-point underdog in the game, and it's a 2 p.m. start from San Jose. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. Also in college athletics, the Mountain West Conference will make Hawaii a full-time member in all sports. Previously, they were a football-only member, but when 4 Mountain West teams announced that they were leaving for the Pac-12 in 2026, the Mountain West needed members, so they had added UTEP, and now they got Hawaii. And for both of those schools, they have come full circle. They were left behind when members of the WAC decided to form in the Mountain West. Now they're in the Mountain West Conference. Figure that one out. Now, Hawaii, in this agreement with the Mountain West, will not have to subsidize their opponents' travel expenses. And those charter flights aren't cheap. And the Rainbows will start playing the Mountain West in 2026 full-time with all sports. In junior college volleyball, Casper College lost to Western Nebraska at the Erickson Gym in 3 straight last night, 25-15, 25-17, 25-13. It's been a brutal year for the defending Region 9 champions at 6-20. They will host Central Wyoming College on Friday. The OCCC volleyball team from Cheyenne lost to Eastern Wyoming last night in 4 sets, 19-25, 25-23, 25-16, and 25-21. Golden Eagles are 9-16. They'll be at Gillette College on Friday. In the baseball playoffs, the New York Yankees with a 2-0 lead in the American League Championship Series as they beat Cleveland last night 6-3. And Game 3 of the National League Championship Series tonight, the New York Mets will host the Los Angeles Dodgers with that series even at a game apiece. And that's it in sports.
Well, Hawaii is out west, and it has mountains.
Yeah.
Okay.
But here's the thing about Hawaii is that they, for all those schools to go over there, Hawaii has to pay.
Yeah. Okay.
And now they don't.
Yeah.
At least on a gradual thing, it's what was it? $150,000 if you want to charter a flight for football. That's from the West Coast. From the mountain time zones, about $175,000.
Wow.
Meaning,
okay.
like in football, they bring the equipment in a truck.
Yeah.
This time you got to put it all on the plane.
Can't we just park an aircraft carrier like somewhere in the middle and everybody meet there?
Yeah, but it would take 2 weeks. They need to be there tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Have a very safe trip and enjoy those munchies on the way.
Just give me a holler.
It's okay. Coming up on some local business we got to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National local update on weather forecast. I got more to go through with you here, but it will be open phones in the 8 o'clock hour. So 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. It's Wake Up Wyoming. 8:06 the time. It's a Wednesday. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Over the hump we go.
Today's show is sponsored by shrimp-flavored breath mints. Seals love them, and you will too.
So either take them on a first date if you don't want a second date, or take it on a last date to break up with her. Same thing,
Warning. Wake Up Wyoming is about to enter daily open phones. This means that anyone will be allowed to call in and talk about anything. I mean, imagine if we actually allowed you on air to say anything you wanted. Scary, right? Well, we're just that brand of crazy. If you are offended by what other people think, then maybe you want to tune out right about now. Just saying. If you should choose to call, just remember, the more funny and interesting you are, the longer Glenn will keep you on the line. Obnoxious jerks will be hung up on. Dave, all right, strap in. and let's do this thing.
888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. You can talk about what I'm talking about. Change the subject, fine by me. Steve and Casper, I did get your note. I'm looking at it, but I'm going to have to put it aside till I get the chance to take a look at all of it there. John and Gillette, I was talking about electric vehicles last hour, how it says they'll get so many miles to the charge until you really start to tax the vehicle, and then it just loses so much. Now, of course, it does happen with your internal combustion engine. If you're going faster than when they calculate how many miles per gallon you get, and you start going faster or hauling more, of course, it's going to affect your mileage, of course. But it's far worse with electric vehicles. So John says for electric and all vehicles, drag is related to the square of speed. Driving 10% faster requires 20% more energy. And he's right also in this sense. When I first got to Wyoming, I was driving a small two-door car that had a four-cylinder engine. And I know some of you with big trucks are thinking, wimp. I was on the East Coast, okay? I was living in the city area. It made sense there, especially when it came to parallel parking. But all right. So I get out onto the Wyoming highways, and we're 80 miles an hour, long stretches. So I turned to a friend of mine I made out here as a mechanic, and I said, I guess I'm getting really good gas mileage out here. And he said, no, not really, because the speed limit's 80. You've got this little four-cylinder engine. When you cross a certain point, you're starting to bleed energy. So it's costing you a lot of energy to get up to 80 and then maintain 80. You're not, no, you would do better with a six-cylinder engine out here. Oh, okay. Well, as I started looking at that bell curve, I started to realize, no, he's absolutely right about that. With electric vehicles, though, there seems to be a much bigger problem with the way they're currently, it's got great torque. They ride great. There's a lot good about electric motors, but they still have some major problems to overcome, too. And so the mileage that you're going to get per charge, the math works great as long as you're driving it exactly the way they ran their tests. But as soon as you start putting more on it, dragging more of a load behind you, more weight, going faster, that bell curve really drops off hard, really does. All right, let's go pick on Kamala Harris for a minute. Yay! Okay, so yesterday I told you about Kamala's plagiarism scandal, right? Yeah, she had grabbed in a book that she wrote on crime a few years back. She just grabbed a bunch of stuff from Wikipedia and just dropped it right into her book without even crediting Wikipedia. She just dropped that stuff in. All right, now these accusations have gotten worse. Turns out she also appropriated Martin Luther King Jr.'s words in the same book. And she appears to rip off Dr. Martin Luther King in an anecdote from her childhood during the civil rights movement. Kamala Harris has, the story says, been accused of plagiarizing Dr. King in a book that helped launch her political career. U.S. Vice President, the story says, accused of copying more than a dozen sections on Smart on Crime, a career prosecutor's plan to make us safer, which, by the way, she didn't, but okay. She appears to rip off Dr. Martin Luther King's anecdote from her childhood during the civil rights movement. A 59-year-old wrote, "My mother used to laugh when she's told the story about me when I was fussing as a toddler. She would lean down and ask me, 'What's wrong? What do you want?' And I would wail back, 'Freedom.'" Okay, so that story, which is something that Martin Luther King told, basically was dropped into Kamala Harris's book as if she was the child. There's a short story here on what happened there. Now, and she's not the only one. I played something for you yesterday where Joe Biden did the same thing. He would rip off other people's speeches and plagiarize writing and stuff like that. So now, it's not just them. The far-left New York Times has disgraced itself by, well, they're running interference essentially for Kamala Harris. This story says, Vice President Kamala Harris, of obvious and blatant plagiarism. Now the Times went to exonerate her, and they did not do a full analysis, and they finally admitted Monday afternoon. Journalist Christopher Rufo dropped a bombshell that Harris plagiarized at least a dozen sections of her criminal book, Smart on Crime. The 2009 nonfiction work, which now we know is fiction, but okay, co-authored by Joan O.C. Hamilton, was written while Harris was district attorney in San Francisco. With the help of Dr. Chiffon Weber, initially famous plagiarism hunter, they provided the jaw-dropping examples, which I talked to you about yesterday. Well, so she's been caught red-handed. Even more predictable, the Times lied to its readers to protect her. The passage called into question Mr. Ruffo's on his Substack platform, about 500 words in the approximately 6,500-word, 2,000-page book. And again, the review of the book, the New York Times, found none of the passages brought up any kind of question whatsoever. They give it a complete pass. They reviewed the book in the Times and talked about how wonderful it was, basically, only to later come back and admit that they didn't really completely review the book. Here's a tweet. I know it's X now, from Jonathan Bailey. For those coming here from the New York Times article, I want to be clear that I have not performed a full analysis of the book. My quotes were based on information provided to me by the reporters who spoke about the passages. So, here we have a New York Times reporter that is admitting that he didn't really sit down and do any vetting, any homework. Think about that a minute. His job was to not just review the book and talk about whether he thought the book was good or not, but to vet the book to see if there were any problems with it. He didn't do that. He just went by what other reporters said without really doing any homework himself. That's the New York Times for you. All right. So now I do have another story. Hang on just a moment on this one. Let me call this one up. It has to do with even liberal Democrats are having a problem with the news media now. I mean, if you think about it, none of us really have much respect for the press anymore. But according to a recent survey, Americans' trust in the news media from 1972 to 2024, and it has dropped dramatically. I mean, you should see this line crash and burn. The story says the decline in trust for higher education is accelerated, K through 12 system, after COVID especially. But the decline that really has plagued the media has been going on longer. And now it's creeping into Democrats as well as independents who still had some faith in the media, but now more than ever just don't. And the news media has given them every reason why not to trust them.
They say cows are bad for the environment because all they do is eat plants and fart. Just like vegans.
So many opinions, we had to build the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app to hold them all. Free download from AM 1030 K2 Radio.
8:20 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Hang on, Mike. I'm getting to you. I got to set this up for everybody. And early this morning, Mike has saved me because I had another serious topic coming up. He saved my butt on this one. So early this morning, right out of the gate, 6 o'clock, I started talking about what to do in Wyoming. Let's say you're one of these guys who's going to go up into the mountains and you're going to do some hunting for the season. And you're bringing your buddies with you and you have a team of horses carrying everything, which happens in Wyoming. One of the horses dies. What do? Well, according to the Forest Service, you pack it full of dynamite and blow it up. I am not kidding. Not only are there reasons for this, there's a manual for this. But they're asking people not to do this right now because you're afraid you might start another fire. All right, Mike is in Laramie. Morning, Mike.
Good morning, Glenn. I was wondering about with the horses. You know, they want the horses blown up because it will attract grizzly bears.
Right.
Well, why aren't they blowing up dead elk or moose or bison for the same reason?
For that matter, I can see, and I would do this. I would strap little rockets to my airplane and fly over the mountains and just, launch them at dead animals.
That would work.
Yeah, it would be fun. You would come with me, I'm sure.
Sure. Yeah, and another bit of the weird and the strange that you like so much.
Yeah.
The Toyota dealer down here in Laramie is airing commercials, and he's offering free garlic to keep the vampires away from me for this Halloween.
Fine. I wonder if that's going to get him any business. I'd go for it.
I don't know. But on a bit more serious, you were talking about this morning what happened in the UK where you can't insult bald men anymore.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Well, that leads to a sort of a serious problem over there in the UK. If they're going to go be that much of thin-skinned snowflakes,
right?
Think of all the great BBC shows that couldn't be made anymore, like Monty Python's Flying Circus or Faulty Towers or or the Blackadder and shows like that.
Yeah.
They couldn't make them anymore.
Oh, no, because those shows were built on being offensive. That was the whole idea, was offensive humor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they were.
Let's not forget when MTV showed us The Young Ones.
Oh.
You ever watch that one? That was, oh, my God.
I didn't watch that, but...
Oh, it was really pushing the limits and was very strange, weird humor. But, yeah, I would say that they've got to be... If you can't say anything offensive in the UK anymore, then as far as I'm concerned, that country is dead to me.
It is. I mean, even in this country, Mel Brooks has admitted he couldn't make such movies as Blazing Saddles with the producers anymore.
Yeah.
People will be running, screaming around about that.
Yeah. But then again, you say that, but there are some movies out there that are really offensive today. But I don't know that they're going to be classics, though. But I've seen some movies out there with some really offensive humor. But I think it's because leftists are making it that they get away with it.
That's it. But I mean, there is. I mean, that thing about the bald. I mean, it was kind of funny, especially when you started talking about. I mean, phallically challenged is better than follically challenged.
Yes, it is funny. Yeah, and I know what DJ is saying, but I'm going to go for the funnier.
I would go for the funnier too, but.
That's right.
I mean, it's kind of how our society has kind of gone down. You can't have fun anymore.
No, you really can't. Well, my answer to that is I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway, and then I'm going to laugh at them getting offended.
Oh, that's even funnier.
I think so, yeah. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it, Mike. Let's go to Bill in Laramie, who also wants to talk about blowing up horses. Hi, Bill.
Hi, Glenn. Hey, we're kind of missing the point on what they're doing. They're not blowing up every horse out in the forest.
Yeah.
Basically what they're doing is if you're along a pack trail like that one where there's no way you can get off of that trail.
Right.
There's no way to move that animal out of there, and they're trying to get them away from where these guys are packing in and out. But most horses are just left in the forest, and they're gone. Honestly, they're gone in less than 2 days.
I would bet, yeah.
And even that, if you've ever had, most of us elk hunters, can tell you stories about in one night, a bear can eat a half of an elk.
Mm-hmm.
Just one night. So it doesn't take long for them to have that thing gone.
All right. Okay. I just want to pack a horse full of dynamite. And I like the way they say in the manual for this, which is a real thing, make sure to take off its shoes because they become projectiles.
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah, I saw that. That's pretty funny. And it worked. It would work. I'd never seen it done, but it probably is pretty impressive.
All right. Thank you, Bill. So let me catch everybody up on this. Okay, it's a Cowboy State Daily article. It's a very good one. And he's absolutely right what Bill's saying in Laramie County. There is absolutely right. So if, again, you're packing out, which I've seen people do. I was up in the Bighorns, and I watched a whole bunch of guys saddling up their animals, putting on all of their gear onto other animals, and they had a whole trail full of horses. Some they were riding, some they were just carrying gear, and they went into the mountains on a hunting trip. I got pictures of it. This is a few years back. I thought it was really impressive. Okay, so what happens if one of those horses die? Now, he's absolutely right. If it just dies and rolls down a hill somewhere, don't worry about it. But what if it dies on the trail and it's kind of hard to move the thing? Well, what happens is a bear shows up. They'll find it. And the bear will just claim it as his territory. And so anyone else who comes along that trail is going to come across a bear who does not want anyone anywhere near his food. That's a dangerous thing. So what the Forest Service has suggested in the past is, so bring some dynamite with you. See, I approve already. Blow the horse up. And if you think I'm kidding, there's a story on this. And there's a manual. Yes, there is. That goes with it, too. It's Tech Tips, and this is the title, Obliterating Animal Carcasses with Explosives. It shows you where to put the explosives. It has advice like make sure to take its shoes off. They become projectiles. The idea is if you scatter the horse all over the place with a big explosion, which, by the way, how fun would that be? Although horrifying you might want to take the other horses around the corner. It would be really horrifying for the other horses to see this happen. But that just spreads the meat all over the place, and so now the bear is not just going to claim one spot. But the point of this story is they don't want you to do this now because there's a big fire danger out there right now. So they're asking people, please don't do this. It would be a huge fire danger at this time. But that left the door open for the rest of us to do. You can do this in Wyoming? I don't doubt it at all, because remember, now we are the state where it's okay to eat roadkill. That's legal now. And there is actually an app for that. Don't forget, there's an app for that. The state of Wyoming has an app where if you find some roadkill and you're looking at it wondering, should I, use the app and somebody will guide you through whether you should scrape that thing off the road and take it home and grill it up. Your state of Wyoming has also provided you with a guide for blowing up a dead horse and are encouraging you, except when it's a bad fire season, are encouraging you to do this. Aren't you so glad you live in this state where they encourage you to blow stuff up? I might, next time I go camping, might just, even though I don't go camping on horseback or anything like that, but it gives me the excuse just to bring some damn dynamite. Because you never know. And even Chet and Yoder offered me earlier this morning, you want to go fishing? Yes. Joel and Casper. So does that mean anybody in the back country leaves a pack of dynamite? ? So where do you get it? Oh, you want to know where do you get the dynamite? Somebody out there knows. I don't know. I've never gone shopping for dynamite before, but somebody knows where to get the dynamite. If you can figure that out, Joel, Chet, and I want to go camping. Let's wake up Wyoming.
Listen to Glenn Woods anywhere you roam with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
8:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. So 888-97 Woods the phone number. That's 888-97 WOODS. A few more things on the blowing up horses with dynamite. Miss Mary disapproves, by the way. There's got to be a glue factory nearby, she says. Wags in Cheyenne. Maybe, and this is where the question is, where do we get the dynamite? Maybe a good place to look for dynamite is at your local farm and ranch store right next to the horseshoes, which is probably true. Okay, so I still have this image in my head. Okay, so you got a team of horses. You're up in the mountains. And one of the horses dies, and all of the other horses are looking over going, oh, my God, did Eric just die? Eric is laying in the middle of the path just dead. So the first thing the humans do is start to strip Eric of all of his supplies. That's horrifying right there. And then they start grabbing these sticks, it seems, and they start to shove these sticks in all sorts of God knows where places, which has got to be horrifying for the other horses. What are they doing to Eric? Why are they shoving these sticks up there? You see what I'm saying? And then they light the thing, and Eric blows up right in front of them. That has got to be horrifying for the horses, which is why I said take the horses around the corner somewhere so they can't see what's going on. Much less traumatic for them. All right, now, a couple of things also, and I'm going to go to two different sources for this one. The first one is Cowboy State Daily. Local GOP chair says Kamala Harris billboard in Wyoming on Highway 20 will help Trump. And somebody put up a billboard on Highway 20 in Wyoming. Harris Waltz 2024. Typical, just, billboard, which is fine. If a Democrat wants to put up a sign, fine. This is outside of Thermopolis. Pretty big sign, too. Well, okay, that didn't stop Kim Bartlett, chair of the Hot Springs County Democrat Party, from taking the opportunity to further her party's cause in Thermopolis. She also said similar billboard now being planned in Sheridan. Not everyone is Republican in the state, but the answer from the Republicans is, what a great boost for Trump, because after the Harris-Waltz billboard went up, more people than ever before went to the Republican Party asking for Trump signs. So now there's Trump signs all over the place near the billboard. So they got their one big billboard. We have like 1,000 Trump signs all over the place, is basically what's happening there. All right, now, again, if somebody wants to go ahead and put those, of course they have the right to do that. To me, the only time signs like that really sway anybody's opinion in local politics, a lot of times people don't know. The low information voter, they don't know who's running for local offices. So putting up signs, it just helps get the name out. It's inexpensive advertising to help get the name out. But when it comes to big parties and who's really going to win the presidential election and so on, as far as I'm concerned, signs like that don't have that much of an effect on anyone. There might be a few people, there's more of this sign than that sign, but most people don't think in those terms. But okay, next one from Wildfile. Wyoming Democrats urge their voters to come home as party numbers sag. The story says Democrat representation at all-time low in Wyoming politics. So basically, it's Greg in Laramie. He's here. That's one. A couple of others out there, too. I think I can name 5 Democrats that I know in the entire state. There's a couple more than that, maybe 7. Anyway, Democrat represented all-time low in Wyoming politics, prompting the political party to plan a homecoming of sorts, traditionally. That might involve a parade, a football game, and maybe a dance somewhere. But the Wyoming Democrat Party is aiming to create its own version of a fall festivity. Quote, let's make this time between now and Tuesday, November 5th, the early voting period for Election Day, our homecoming 2024, says Wyoming Democrat Party Chair Joe Borubito. I'm just destroying that name, I know. So if you've been voting strategically as a Republican, feel disillusioned by the GOP, stay home on primary day, or haven't voted in several years, head to your county clerk or voting location and register or re-register as a Democrat before you cast your ballot, is what he says. This appeal comes for the party that has very low, did I mention very low, numbers at this time. I don't think it's ever been so. I'm going to take a guess here, just a guess. I think part of the reason why is when Wyoming decided to put an end to crossover voting by you've got to be registered to vote by this time and pick a party, and you can't cross over. I think that's part of the reason that some people just said, fine, I'll just go for Republican. I mean, why bother? You know, they know that the Democrats are not going to win in certain areas because there's no Democrat running in many areas. So they might as well just go ahead and register as Republican. For some people, as Democrats, they would rather pound their head into a brick wall than register as a Republican. So meanwhile, the Wyoming Republican Party is fractured and shifted further to the right this legislative session. Out of the 236,290 voters registered in Wyoming, about 26,800 are registered as Democrat, according to the most recent statistics from the Secretary of State's office. That's more than it was in October of last year, but lower than every other October going back to 2014. So while new restrictions on when voters can affiliate with a party, that's the I was talking about a moment ago with crossover voting, can have something to do with it. The Democrats' homecoming efforts is just to bring people back to the Democrat Party in time for the election. Instead, Wyoming law defines a major political party as an organization whose candidate For anyone in any office in the United States House of Representatives, General Secretary of State receives not less than 10% of the total votes cast for those offices in the most recent general election. By the way, we still have in the state of Wyoming a Libertarian Party. You ever hear from them? Yeah. And the Constitution Party. And I've often said for you Republicans out there who are disappointed with the way the Republican Party has gone over the years, take a look at the Constitution Party, because they're more like what the Republican Party used to be. Unfortunately, though, like the Libertarians, they really don't know how to get their act together and to win anything. So they exist conceptually. They have members. Someone runs for office now and then, but they hardly ever win anything, and so they just don't exist. Wyoming used to have some other political parties as well represented in the state, but they're not even here anymore. So the story said, in his op-ed, this Democrat said, one simple question for his Democrat friends who are currently registered as Republicans: are you better off now than you were 2 years ago? And the answer would be hell no. Harriet Hageman is a member of Congress. Chuck Gray is Secretary of State. Freedom Caucus continues to gain prominence throughout our state. Many of you joined the Republican ranks with the strategy to moderate the GOP candidates who reflect a more balanced perspective. So what he's saying is, and this is pretty much what I was talking about, there are some Democrats who went and joined the Republicans in the hope of moderating Wyoming's Republican Party. Can't get enough Democrats to win anything, go to the Republican Party and try to make them more moderate. Maybe that's a better way to go. And he's saying, forget that, come home, which he hopes to do in time for the election. Don't think it's going to work. Let's wake up, Wyoming.
Download the mobile app, listen anywhere, and chat live with Glenn during the show on AM 1030 K2 Radio.
It's time, it's Wake Up Wyoming, so not off to the icebox, but instead head out to the highways of the great state of Wyoming, where Frank Gambino is out there, pulled over somewhere, waiting to talk to us. Frank, I have a survey about driving out there.
Oh, okay. I'm used to that.
Okay. So you ever come up behind a truck, the kind that hauls cars, but there's no cars on it? You ever been tempted just to floor it and see if you can go ahead and just jump the ramp?
There would be something out of like a Fast and Furious.
Yes, that kind of a thing. Because according to this survey, 100 men have thought about it. 100% of men.
Oh, okay. They've all thought. And how many percent has actually tried it?
0.
Yeah.
But they think about it. I could just go ahead and step on it right now and ride right up this ramp over the cab of the trucker in front of me and land in front of him, just like something out of Smokey and the Bandit.
Okay, you know what, AI? Somebody will probably invent a video of just that.
I probably is already out there, I would say. Now, having said that, there I was. I like the town of Chugwater, Wyoming. Well, when usually when I head down south to Cheyenne, I stop and have a burger at the soda fountain. Then I walk across the street to visit my friends at the Tri-County Mercantile. There's never any cars, so I would just walk across the road. Until one day, I suddenly had to jump back because there was a semi-truck, tractor trailer, if you will, hauling about 6 cars on top of it, on one of those car hauler trailer things, whatever that's called, right? And I thought to myself, after all these years of walking across without ever having to be worried in the slightest about being hit by a car, I was about to get hit by a semi and 6 cars at once.
See, now that is something to write home about.
If you ever want to tell your kids, look both ways before you cross the street, I would say that would be the perfect story.
Even in Chugwater, Wyoming, you bet. All right, in college athletics, the Mountain West Conference is going to make Hawaii a full-time member at all sports. Previously, they were a football-only member, but when 4 Mountain West Conference teams announced that they were leaving for the Pac-12, the Mountain West needs new members. They already added UTEP, and so for Hawaii and UTEP, they have come full circle. They were left behind when members of the WAC decided to form the Mountain West. Now they're in the Mountain West. Figure that one out. Hawaii, in this agreement with the Mountain West, will not have to subsidize their opponents' travel expenses. Those charter flights aren't cheap, so the Rainbows will start playing full-time in all sports in the Mountain West in 2026. In college football, the Wyoming Cowboys will take their show on the road this week to meet San Jose State. This has been an utterly forgettable year to this point for the Cowboys, with just 1 win and 5 losses. UW 1-1 in Mountain West play after a 27-24 loss to San Diego State over the weekend in Laramie. Evan Swoboda will still be their number one quarterback, and he has had a rough year. Accuracy and decision-making have been issues, and you're only going to go as far as your quarterback's going to take you. The offensive line has been decimated by injuries, and that doesn't help at all, and receivers need to catch passes. Coaching staff is sticking with Swoboda. It appears that they feel that the backup, redshirt freshman Caden Anderson, is not ready for prime time. He enjoyed a spectacular senior season in high school at South Lake, Texas. But, if Saturday's game gets out of hand, maybe this guy needs more snaps. UW 11-point underdogs in the game. That's a lot. That's a 2 p.m. start from San Jose. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. JUCO volleyball, Casper College lost to Western Nebraska from Scotts Bluff at the Erickson Gym in 3 straight last night, 25-15, 25-17, 25-13. It's been a brutal year for the T-Birds, who are the defending Region 9 champions. They're 6-20, and they will host Central Wyoming College on Friday. The LCCC volleyball team from Cheyenne lost to Eastern Wyoming last night in 4 sets, 19-25, 25-23, 25-16, and 25-21. Golden Eagles are 9-16. They'll be at Gillette College on Friday. In the baseball playoffs, the New York Yankees have a 2-game-to-none lead in the American League Championship Series with a 6-3 win over Cleveland. Tonight is Game 3 of the National League Championship Series, as the New York Mets will host the Los Angeles Dodgers, with that series even at a game apiece. And that's in sports.
So Yankees doing pretty good.
Yeah, I don't want. Like I said, the last thing I want to see is the Yankees and the Mets in the World Series.
Okay,
it would be awful.
Odds
Absolutely
of that right
awful.
now? Are the odds any good for that right now?
Yeah, you know what? It could happen.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, it'd be terrible.
Yeah. Okay. This would be. So, would you still watch the game?
Yeah, I guess I'd have to. But,
you don't have to, Frank.
No, that's true. I mean, yeah. I like baseball. I like the World Series, but not with both New York teams in there. No,
yeah, it's okay.
I can barely handle one,
right.
Much less 2.
All right, so I would just say go to bed early, or turn on a movie that you haven't watched. Last night I rewatched Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Oh yeah, that's that really bad movie, like a Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yes,
flick.
the worst movie ever made in the history of bad movies, and it was worth it watching it again. See, do that instead, Frank. All right,
there you go.
Careful on the road. Coming up on some local business you and I have to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National, local update on the weather forecast. Oh, and then this story. And so there's a lot of really rich parents out there who are not going to leave anything to their kids. And there are some young people out there who are thinking that that's just wrong. We'll talk about that and more. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.
Cold.
Six the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Wednesday. So over the hump we go.
Today's show is sponsored by shrimp-flavored breath mints. Seals love them, and you will too.
Perfect for that person you don't want a second date with, or you're just looking to break up in general.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
The topic completely out of left field for you, but while I'm setting up to handle this one, if you want to change the subject, that's fine. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOOD. Or like a lot of people are doing here, you can go ahead and text me using the Wake Up Wyoming app. Free to download at your app store. Just hit the chat option, and there you go, and I'll answer back. both on and off the air. And it really is a great tool to keep the whole community talking. Now, as far as I'm concerned, when I do this program, it's heard on several radio stations, in case you didn't know, from the Montana border all the way down past Denver and just as wide, and many people listening off the Wake Up Wyoming app. So if they're not near a radio that can pick up the program, they just grab their phone, whatever mobile device, hit Wake Up Wyoming, the app, and at top right of the app is, when it opens up, is this little arrow thing. And right there, that's Listen Live. So all these people are communicating, not just with me, but with each other through me as the program progresses. All right, so I came across this headline, which I thought this is really worth taking a moment. Let's get out of the politics and other things we talk about. This is important. It has to do with our younger generations. A post about rich parents not helping their kids when they retire, or for that matter, when they die. The kids don't really get much of an inheritance of anything at all. And some young people these days are having a problem with it. Here are some of the responses about this. One writes, "What WTF is wrong with parents? My wife and I have spent almost 2 decades of leveling up in jobs and careers and are now in our late 30s with 2 small children. We scraped, we suffered to buy a small ranch house and used 2 larger cars for our family. Our credit suffered. Personally, about $20,000 in debt. They need to listen to Dave Ramsey. I am slowly working down that debt. Our kids attend daycare that's bled out our savings. Typical millennials, they say." Last week, I came across an account summary, and it mentioned my dad. Well, they're doing much better than we are, he says, but they're not going to leave any of that to us. And he thinks his parents are just selfish. Hang on, I'm going somewhere with this. Another guy named Adam. "We have friends like this, parents worth a lot of money. Some of them worth like $20 million. They live alone in a giant house in Florida. Angry at the world most of the time. Kids are responsible, hardworking, not rich. Truly strange phenomena. When they die, their kids are not going to get any of that money." Again, some of these people, oh my God, how can you do this to your kids? Let's see, here's another one. "Parents typically think about leaving their kids an inheritance after they die, not realizing that their kids will be like 60 when they die. It's generally the least useful. You obviously don't want to give an 18-year-old $5 million. Or not even a 30-year-old. Why not?" Okay. So as I read this with some people that are just, why would you leave your kids like this? There was a John Wayne movie. Now, I never watched the whole movie. I just remember seeing part of it, and I looked it up. Everything's on YouTube these days. Now, this scene, John Wayne's delivery of this is really good, but it's kind of lengthy. So what I did was I cut out the pauses, because he has a lot of pauses as he slowly explains this to the woman who's playing his daughter in the movie. So here's the slightly sped up version.
"Becky, come here. There's something I ought to tell you. Guess now's as good a time as any. You're going to have every young buck west of the Missouri around here trying to marry you. Mostly because you're a handsome filly, but partly because I own everything in this country from here to there. They'll think you're going to inherit it. Well, you're not. You're going to leave most of it to the nation, really. For a park where no lumberman will cut down all the trees for houses with leaky roofs. Nobody will kill all the beaver for hats for dudes, nor murder the buffalo for a robe. What I'm going to give you is a 500-cow spread on the upper Green River. Now, that may not seem like much. It's more than we had, your mother and I. Some folks are going to say I'm doing all this so I can sit up in the hereafter and look down on a park named after me, or that I was disappointed in you, didn't want you to get all that money. But the real reason, Becky, is because I love you, and I want you and some young man to have what I had. Because all the gold in the United States treasure, and all the harp music in heaven can't equal what happens between a man and a woman with all that growing together. I can't explain it any better than that.
Now, again, he delivered that much slower. It went on for quite a bit. And really, it sounded like he was thinking out his words as he explained it to her. And I listened to that. I just accidentally saw it on TV one day and thought, that was really good. He's not going to leave her with nothing. They get a little chunk of land, whoever she marries, and 500 head of cattle, and that's it. Now, you got to make something out of that. But he's doing it for a reason. Because there's something that happens not just to an individual, but to a couple when they have to work together, scrape and claw together, cooperate together, and they grow and they learn, and there's wisdom in that. And it's often said, you've seen this happen. I know you have. You've seen this your whole life. So here's some guy who got really incredibly wealthy. For whatever reason, he was successful. And he gives it to his kid, and then the first kid might try to continue working, but he doesn't do as good as dad. And the next kid who gets that inheritance really is a slacker and doesn't do much of anything. Eventually, the money dries up. And the family doesn't stay rich forever because of this. And in large part, that has to do with what just giving all of that to a younger generation does, especially when they think they're just entitled to it, instead of you need to start from the bottom and work your way up so you understand and appreciate where things come from, and it builds character. And I can say the same exact thing for America's welfare state.
Is your life boring? Are you too young for a midlife crisis, but tired of waiting for something to trigger an existential crisis? Why not try generalized anxiety disorder? Make every day a crisis.
Yep, there you have it. A new level of crazy. And you heard it here first. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. On air, online, and on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. Be part of the show at 888-97-WOODS. This is K2 Radio.
So, I just went way off to a completely different kind of topic, which I think is an important one. And I used, and for those of you, or quite a few people sent me notes, that's the movie McClintock. And I do know the name of the movie. I've just never watched the whole thing. I've seen bits and pieces. I'll turn on the television and there's a John Wayne movie, and it might be that one, and that's part of it. And so I've seen that scene, I think, at least twice in my lifetime, which I was always impressed when he explained. A rich man who's a self-made man explains to his daughter, who's just a beautiful young lady, that, no, I'm not going to give you much of anything when you finally do get married and get off on your own. You're not going to get much of an inheritance. Because it's important for you to build, you and your husband, to build your life. And he gets into a little bit of the character of the individual, but also the couple, how they grow together by learning to build this life together. That the struggles are going to be incredible, but it's important that they have those struggles. Now, this is a whole lot different from young people today who think they're entitled to all sorts of things. And that includes, we're going to have free health care and free electricity and free school and so on. And when they do go to school, we give them a bunch of useless topics, nothing that's actually producing something of value. And there's the problem. They don't know how to produce anything of value because they don't know what value is.
Today's question, what's your college major? Gender and pronoun mechanic, podcast management, millennial studies. My major is protest administration, adult content entrepreneurship, vape shop economics. I'm going for bioengineered nutrition, video game streaming operation, biohackology, metaverse architecture, public cancellation policy, therapist assistant, mobile rideshare and food delivery logistics, digital screen behavior psychiatrist. I'm going for digital tipping ethics. Dating app programmer. My major is sports betting education. Photoshop and filter engineer. My major is digital political propaganda design. I just switched my major to common sense preservation, alcoholic beverage chemistry, inclusive fashion design. So my major is sex robot technician.
Believe it or not, quite a few of the majors that you heard there were actually real things. And if you go to school for those kinds of majors, you end up sounding like this.
Ladies and gentlemen, words of wisdom from Kamala Harris.
Because what we see is so hard to see that we lose faith or a vision of those things we cannot see but must know.
So you see, that's what you end up sounding like. after you've taken all of these useless courses. The point in all of this being that we have a younger generation. If we want to be responsible to that younger generation, then first off, we teach them from a very early age the value of work and producing things, and also how to expect that if you want something great out of your life, you're going to have to work hard to get it. And that's a good thing. And you're going to face all sorts of disappointment along the way. There's going to be loads of setbacks along the way, but you just keep going. Rather than being the kind of person that just throws a fit when they don't get what they want. And this has to do with what kind of parenting we have to in the world today. I think a big part of the problem is, let me go back a bit. We had what we called the greatest generation. The greatest generation were those who, like my parents, went through the Great Depression when they were kids. Right out of the Great Depression, they went right into World War II and literally saved the world. They came back and decided, well, let's get our lives started. And they gave us the infrastructure that we have today in America, the highway systems, et cetera, et cetera. They went to the moon. I mean, they really built a great place. And they wanted to make sure, they said this often, I want to make sure my kids don't have to go through what we went through, which I understand that. We always want to give our kids more and better. But on the other hand, they ended up spoiling our kids. That's why the hippie generation turned out to be a bunch of snot-nosed, spoiled, didn't understand anything. And it just got worse from there until we're at today, where we have parents who grew up as that spoiled, from the greatest generation to the spoiled generation, and then they spoiled their kids even more. And so many people today at a very early age, not all of them, but from a very early age, have really no idea how to be a creative, thoughtful, productive, et cetera, person. They just expect it all to be there. Now, if you're thinking, well, that's all of the younger generations, no, it's not. I've talked before on this program about raising alpha kids. I know you've met some young people that were raised properly. And as far as I'm concerned, those are the ones who, in the end, wind up on top. The ones that were raised properly, knowing the value of things, knowing what hard work is, not going off to some college to get a useless degree, completely useless, at a huge amount of money for that useless degree, but instead going to some trade school and becoming productive. And you can go to college if you have a career that actually demands college, and there's some great things you can achieve with a good college degree in a real subject, not the garbage that I just played. Chet is telling me that would be practical, Glenn. Can't allow that. They might develop something. Yeah, okay. Jeff and Casper, I wish someone would give me enough land for 500 cows. Here's the thing about that, Jeff. So, growing up on the East Coast as I did, Florida used to be the biggest cattle-producing state in the country. And if you think about how much rain they get in Florida and what the grass is like, you can run a lot of cattle on not so much land. Now, we get out here to places like Wyoming, and wow, you have to have a lot of land just to run a little bit of cattle. Huge difference out here. But yeah, 500 cattle out here, that's a lot of land when you're talking about way out west. But anyway, so you get the point where I'm going with all of that. I just read that little piece about some young people going, how are these parents who are worth millions of dollars not leaving their kids anything? Because those parents are smart. They want their kids to have to start from the bottom and struggle up. Now, they're willing to give their kids advice and some guidance along the way. But even in today's world, there are parents who are smart enough to say, hey, your mom and I, we're worth $30 million, but you're not getting much of any of that, if any at all. You're going to have to earn it like we did. Those are smart parents. By the way, back when we liked Bill Cosby, and I used to admire the hell out of that man, one of my favorite lines of his kid turned to him and said, Dad, Are we rich? And his answer was, no, son. I'm rich. You're broke. Oh, that makes a whole lot more sense when you think about it in those terms. So I'm glad there is hope for the world. There are alpha kids out there. And there are parents who are worth a lot of money, who are very successful people, who are going to make sure that their kids have to learn the same lessons that they had to learn. They're not just going to dump millions on their kids and say, okay, here you go, you're rich, kid. And expect their kids to know what to do with all of that money, because you know what's going to happen. The kids will be broke. Like someone who wins the lottery, and within 2 years, average, they're not just broke, but they're in debt again. Coming up on some local news, update on your weather forecast after that, then you and I get back into it. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Wake up, Wyoming. Glenn Woods is live on AM 1030 K2 Radio and the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
9:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right, if you want to phone in, 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Hello, Artie and Jeff. Just some of the people who are dropping me notes off of the Wake Up Wyoming app, which you can do as well by using the chat option. There's Grandpa 2. And there's also Greg from Cheyenne, Smalls, Crane Doctor, who's way out in Sebring, Florida, and Blue Eyes, who is from Douglas, Wyoming, just some of the people. You can just join right in. Just text me, and I answer people back both on and off the air. Okay, now, this says shock study. But when I tell you what it is, no shock. Recent mass extinction event never actually occurred. Shock study reveals. Now, are you shocked? I'm not either. Story says Cambridge, Massachusetts, in a jaw-dropping study, my jaw did not drop, researchers say that a recent mass extinction in South America never took place. For 40 years, there's been a long-standing belief about a large-scale plant extinction in a tropical cloud forest in Ecuador. Now, however, an international team of botanists is questioning if it actually happened at all. The study, published in Nature Plants, led by M. White of Harvard University, challenges the concept of the centennial, I'm saying that wrong, probably, extinction. The idea that deforestation can cause immediate extinction of plant species known only in a single location. The story began in 1980 when a botanist, or a couple of them anyway, reported that this ridge in western Ecuador harbored about 90 plant species found nowhere else on the planet. They claimed that these unique plants had likely gone extinct due to widespread deforestation in the area. The dramatic scenario, dubbed the centennial, I'm not pronouncing it right, extinction, became a cautionary tale in conservation biology, highlighting the potential for rapid biodiversity loss in a tropical region. By the way, there's also more loss of what they call rainforest, jungles. Because we're putting up wind turbines and solar panels, and in order to get at some of the rare earth minerals and even just tin, they have to rip up the rainforest to get at it. So, for those people who are trying to save the planet, you're causing deforestation. But reading up, by meticulously combining records and databases and conducting essential field work. Oh, gosh, really? So in order to see if this extinction happened, someone actually got out of their chair and went out to the field to look. Imagine that. Okay, so this gentleman and his colleagues found that 99% of the supposedly extinct plants were actually discovered elsewhere. Now, this reminds me of, there was some time ago, I remember Rush Limbaugh told this story, back when there was a owl that was only supposed to exist up in the old-growth forests in places like Washington State, and they could only live in old-growth trees. But it turns out that this owl, well, first off, they found one living in a Kmart sign, built a nest in a Kmart sign. Was it the spotted owl, I think was it, right, folks? So, okay, this, I think it was a spotted owl, could only exist in these trees, and we're cutting them down. Then they find this spotted owl living in a Kmart sign. But now that Kmart has gone extinct, where's the spotted owl supposed to go? They're screwed now, right? Okay, so it's a miracle, says White. No, it's not. He's a researcher for the Department of Evolution and Biology at Harvard University. Many of these plants are still on the brink of extinction, but fortunately, and I doubt that they are, they're just looking at what they found. The finding doesn't diminish the threat of deforestation and biodiversity, et cetera, et cetera. You get the idea. But it took, in order to figure out whether this thing was extinct or not, someone to actually get off their butts and go out into the real world and actually do some research. Not sitting around just Googling things and relying on the research of other people. And also not going to fall prey to the idea of we can't say this. In other words, we can't say that this didn't go extinct. We can't say we made a mistake, which happens a lot with the cult of climate change. Someone finds out that these horrible things are not happening. We're not in some climate crisis, but you can't say that. Well, these guys bothered to step out and actually say it. But they have to throw in the caveats, though, at the end. But that doesn't mean that it couldn't happen, right?
This one's for the people who have ever felt the pain of stepping on a Lego. I know it hurts. This one's for the people who have ever felt the pain of losing $1 to a broken vending machine. It's sad. This one's for the people who's allergic to dogs. That must be rough. Get it? Rough. It's gonna be okay.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Wood.
Start your day the right way. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join the conversation at 888-97-WOODS.
Coming up at 9:48, it's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Off we go. On the road again. Frank Gambino is out there traveling around somewhere. How far did you get there, Frank?
I'm almost to Wheatland, or at least I'm in Platte County.
No, okay. All right. Crossing the border somewhere along there. All right. I got a question for you here, sports-wise. All right. Yep. So I just came across a headline that says Atlanta has Super Bowl 2028.
Oh, did they get awarded the game? Good for them.
Yes. Okay. How did they decide that?
Well, everyone, it's a bidding situation, and there's kind of a rotation with about 8 different places, maybe 7, and it kind of just runs around. I mean, like, New Orleans has always been in the rotation. Tampa's always been in the rotation. If they've had it in California, and sometimes they've had it, in places that are wintered. They've tried that too, but they bid, and everyone kind of says okay, and the owners wink, wink, wink. Okay, you have it this year, and then you have it next year, and everybody's happy.
Okay, so I suppose they would have to have some criteria, like a certain size stadium, certain number of hotel rooms, things like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, once you've hosted the Super Bowl, then that's it. It's a huge logistical thing, just gigantic, with all these separate parties and guests and hotel rooms, and yeah. So New Orleans, matter of fact, I went to a Super Bowl in New Orleans, and it was a blast. I remember just about half of it. I understand. Now, if they're getting it in 2028, I think much like the Olympics, they're probably going to start real soon preparing for it. Right, yeah, and they know the drill, so then they'll be ready to go. Everything will be fine. All the businesses in the French Quarter will love it.
Yeah.
All the patrons in the French Quarter will love it.
Okay. Now, this was Atlanta, though, for 2028. So,
yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
now,
Atlanta, I'm not even sure they have that underground thing anymore downtown Atlanta.
Now, well, I'm thinking about, though, again, logistically, how everybody shows up and does this. Have you ever watched how the television network shows up and does it? Talk about logistics. Wow.
I've watched when I went to the Olympics in Salt Lake, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And that was just the U.S. television. That didn't include like the European feed and the Asian feed, and it was just crazy. Yeah. I mean, it's a big undertaking.
Yeah.
Big undertaking.
Oh yeah. They have to start planning that probably years in advance. But I mean, by now the networks know what they're doing. But I see that they literally show up with semi-trucks that are entire studios to get everything done.
Right. Yeah, there's one just for graphics, one just for sound, and they marry them all, and it's an unbelievable logistical
Then you
experience.
wonder why they charge so much for ads. Well, now you know.
There you go. All right, in junior college volleyball, Casper College lost to Western Nebraska, the Erickson Gym, in 3 straight last night, 25-15, 25-17, 25-13. It's been a brutal year for the defending Region 9 champions at 6-20. They'll host Central Wyoming on Friday. The LCCC volleyball team from Cheyenne lost to Eastern Wyoming last night in 4 sets, 19-25, 25-23, 25-16, and 25-21. The Golden Eagles are 9-16. They'll be at Gillette College on Friday. In the Major League Baseball playoffs, tonight will be Game 3 in the National League Championship Series as the New York Mets will host the Los Angeles Dodgers, with that series even at the game apiece. Yesterday, the New York Yankees beat the Cleveland Guardians 6-3, so the Yankees lead that series now 2 games to none. College football, the Wyoming Cowboys will take their show on the road this week to meet San Jose State. It's not been a very, very good year for the Pokes at all, with a record of 1-5 and 1-1 in Mountain West play after a 27-24 loss to San Diego State over the weekend in Laramie. Evan Swoboda will still be their number 1 quarterback, and he's been struggling this year. Accuracy and decision-making have been major issues, and you're only going to go as far as your quarterback can take you. And an offensive line decimated by injuries doesn't help the situation at all, and receivers really need to start catching passes. The coaching staff is sticking with Swoboda, it appears, because they feel that backup and redshirt freshman Caden Anderson is not ready for prime time. He enjoyed a spectacular high school senior season in South Lake, Texas. But, if Saturday's game gets out of hand for the Cowboys, maybe this younger guy needs some more snaps. UW is 11-point underdogs in the game. That's 2 p.m. start from San Jose. And we'll have it for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. Also in college athletics, the Mountain West Conference will make Hawaii a full-time member in all sports. Previously, they were a football-only member. But when 4 Mountain West teams announced that they were leaving for the Pac-12, the Mountain West needed more schools, more members. They already added UTEP, and so for Hawaii and UTEP, they've come full circle. They were left behind when members of the WAC decided to form the Mountain West. Now they're in the Mountain West. Hawaii, in this agreement with the Mountain West, does not have to subsidize the opponent's travel expenses, and those charter flights aren't cheap. So the Rainbows will start in the Mountain West in all sports coming up in 2026, and that's in the sports.
And everybody's going to be looking at their wallets every time they have to play Hawaii.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, other schools use that as a huge recruiting tool.
Oh.
And say, you know what? We're going to play for football. We're going to play in Hawaii every other year.
Wow.
And for the basketball teams, we're going to be there every year.
Well, let's turn that around.
You want to go to
Hawaii.
You want to go to Hawaii on our dime? Sure.
Yeah. Well, what about let's turn that around? Hey, Hawaii, why don't you come here? That's going to get expensive.
It does. And
yeah.
When they show up in, like, Laramie, Wyoming in the winter for basketball.
Yeah, not going to be happy. We paid how much for this? All right. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we got to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National local update on the weather forecast. To Wake Up Wyoming.